What's going on, young One Piece world? It's your boy Soge Kami talking about One Piece chapter 1105. This chapter is entitled The Height of Folly. Yes, it is. And I didn't really know what that meant, so I actually looked that up quickly when I looked up, just trying to gather some information to do my like little summary of the chapter. And the height of folly is kind of like folly is like a foolish decision. So it's like saying the most foolish thing that could be done, like the biggest mistake. So that's kind of what the height of folly meant. And based on this chapter, I thought that was like an interesting line, but I think it kind of makes sense based on how it was used. The chapter starts off with basically they're calling this Buster call. The Straw Hats are trying to escape. Luffy's nowhere to be found, and Doll is telling Barcelino and Saturn, "Hey, you guys got to get out of here." The Buster call's going. Barcelino and Saturn say, "We ain't going nowhere." I don't think that one Doll should really be saying this to any of these guys at all, because Doll's not in that position, and two, Saturn heals, and Borsalino can fly and is immune to basically all damage because he's light. He's like the more broken version of NL. So I don't think that there's anything really to worry about there. But just on the conversation of Borsalino, his character in general has just become so down, and like I really just feel bad watching this guy now. Like, this guy's lost all his drive. He cannot be a Conqueror's Haki user. I think that based on this guy, I don't even know if this guy even has hockey at this point. This guy's willpower just seems out. He's just dragging himself. He's just dragging his body trying to do the work that he's doing. And I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. So take off your jacket. You're going home. I don't think Barcelona has a lot in him. I think he's going to be not turning coat, but at least not following these orders. He's being ordered to attack his friend, and he just doesn't have that heart in him. Even at there are even points where they're talking about like destroying the egghead, and Vegapunk is arguing like, "Hey man, you can take my life, but if you destroy Egghead, everything that all these future technologies that I've worked on will be destroyed. Like, it'll set the people back. Don't you want to use these stuff?" And he's like, "Nah, we don't even need that. The people don't need that." And I think all of this kind of ties together with this idea that there's going to be this great cleansing that Emu talked about. And in this great cleansing, it's like basically before the Void Century, people were getting close to all this technology and all this knowledge of the world, and it matches up with this idea that once they start getting close to it, you need to cleanse these people and restart their information, get them back to zero, get them learning, get them close to this point. But once they start learning too much, you have to cleanse that. And then it does tie back into a lot of stuff that you see in real life. It's like stuff like book burning or like revisionist history and stuff like that. So I kind of like the way Oda has tied that together, but it's also kind of scary because it's really close. And like, I can't imagine somebody out there creating technology and then a government going out of her way to kill, get rid of that technology so that the world does not benefit from it. We are better off without knowing. Ignorance is bliss. And I wish I'd prefer choice. Choice is bliss, This stuff that we're seeing from Saturn is very spiteful. Like, I don't know. I'm not aware yet if it's in his character to be spiteful, or if he feels like I don't understand his spite. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't understand his spite. Like, there hasn't been any reason for us to understand why he has so much animosity towards humans, what it is that humans have done, why he feels like he has, the Celestial Dragons in general, why they feel like they have this feeling of, if you guys do anything to us, we took that personally. I just don't understand that. And so it's difficult for me to wrap my head around, like, why he's being going out of his way so hard to, like, just piss on Vegapunk, piss on all these humans, piss on Bonnie. Bonnie is part Celestial Dragon, but I guess she's like a mudblood to him, so he's just pissing on her. And like, it really makes me, it really grinds my gears. It just reminds me of some of the racism you see in real life, and some of the ways people try to cover it up by using these like these stupid arguments, and like, oh, it's not racism, it's this, it's blah blah blah, and like, it just really bothers me. So Saturn is one of those characters who I just feel like is really proving himself. Like, I'm really looking forward to the day where we get this ancient history backstory, because it'll really tie up a lot of like the questions I have towards the Celestial Dragons, because the Celestial Dragons in general are just a force that like they just require more understanding. Because if Oda's not going to get rid of them, like, I have this overwhelming feeling that at the end we're going to have some type of pity for the Celestial Dragons, right? It's the same thing that happened, and we were rewatching in Skypiea with the Shandorians and the Angels, right? The Angels felt like they came up here and they're like, we are here and we landed on this land, and so we should just share it, or it belongs to us. And then, the Shandorians were like, nah, like, this is our homeland, you guys took that from us, give it back. And they just said no. Like, I even to this day, I don't even feel like the Angels really made a good argument for why they shouldn't give them their land back. That was their land. Angels were living on clouds. They got sent. They didn't ask to get sent up there, but y'all took it from them, and y'all made them, and y'all, like, pushed them off of their home territory. So the Shandorians definitely had a right to be angry in that situation. And I feel like that's the situation we're in with the Celestial Dragons, right? We've seen everything from this perspective so far, but what if there is more of a reason for the Celestial Dragons to turn around and say something like, we worked our way here, and this is how things ended up, and we are better off for it, so we aren't going to turn around. I'm feeling like that's the situation that the Celestial Dragons are going to be in, and I'm not going to have pity for them. But I feel like Oda's going to try to make me have pity for them that way, and like, I won't have pity for them. I just won't. And so I don't know if there's anything Celestial Dragons can do, but like, I also don't know if there's anything that the Celestial Dragons can do that could justify me understanding why they have so much hate towards humanity. Like, they something had to have happened where they had to have been on the bottom of the barrel or something. We get like a catch up. Sanji goes to mention to Bonnie that he's gonna save Vegapunk, so that it's gonna be Sanji and Kizaru. Sanji's gonna be going up against Kizaru in his most beaten and downtrodden form. I think I say this every chapter, but this is the fight that I predicted for a long time. I've always thought it was gonna be Zoro versus Fujitora, Sanji versus Kizaru, and Green Bull versus Jinbei, and that's based on Fujitora and Zoro have opposite hockeys. Like, Fujitora is like a observation specialist who and a swordsman, and Zoro's like a armament specialist and a swordsman. The swordsman thing ties them together. Kizaru and Sanji are both like robots fighting their own willpower for their own greater good, right? Sanji does what Sanji asks, especially since Wano, when Sanji asks, would you rather me be just a robot that follows your orders, or would you rather me be me? And then, he's making the decision as if he should just keep going with his like powered up mode, right? With his Germa technologies. And, in Wano too, when Green Bull arrived, he started spitting that hot racism. I thought, and considering that when Jinbei was fighting Who's Who, right, he's talking about, that kind of racism is outdated in this day and age, No, it's not, those admirals, that's what they're about. So Jinbei's been fighting racism his whole life. Jinbei Luther King is going to definitely be fighting Green Bull. That's just the way I see it in the matchup side of things. And like, yeah, it is possible that Luffy does fight a Kainu, but it is possible that Sabo also does. So I think that either one of those things can happen. But all that is to say, I know that Sanji is out here. He's going to be fighting against Kizaru. They just kind of set this whole thing up, and then it's like you see Nami talk about sending Jinbei to go help Zoro, right? To go help Zoro against Base Lucci, and the crowd, the fan bases are going crazy over this. Zoro can't handle Base Lucci. Zoro can't handle Base Lucci, and it's not my story to tell. I think that's explicitly what's being said. Zoro's taking too long with Base Lucci, so Jinbei has to go help. So hopefully in the next chapter we get like a catch up on exactly what this looks like, what Jinbei is doing to help. If it's a 2v1, if it's a 1v1, and Jinbei's watching, drinking tea, whatever it is. I think it'll be interesting either way, and I think it's funny. So. After, I also think that it's possible that Frankie helps Sanji. In this chapter it shows that they're taking the vacuum rockets up to the other side where they're planning to meet up with the Sunny to try and escape, and Kizaru like basically cuts the vacuum rocket in half, and Frankie and all of them fall out. I think that would have been a way of having Frankie re-enter the fight. And it's interesting that Kizaru cuts the vacuum rocket, but he's not ordered to just cut and kill Bonnie and Thing. Like this also goes back into what I was saying before with Saturn's, his just vindictiveness, like his spitefulness. He goes out of his way to order the Kuma PX, models to fire and kill specifically Bonnie and Kuma, because he thinks that it'll be funny to watch the Kuma models kill Bonnie and Kuma. Like, oh, look what you did. And then even Vegapunk notices it too. Like, this would be Vegapunk's biggest fear, right? An invention made by him of his best friend, somebody who he's worked with, somebody he's had somebody who's given him a lot of information, and they've worked together for a long time, and he basically uses the information he's gotten to attack him. Like Vegapunk, what's happening for Vegapunk is he's seeing his technology used in the worst way against somebody super close for him. So it's like just another way of Saturn breaking down Vegapunk's will and destroying him from the inside. This is very reminiscent to me of something that happened in JJK, and I just thought this was a crazy, super depressing thing to have seen and to even think about. Imagine somebody trusted you with okay, I'm gonna make you this technology, you're gonna help me save my daughter, and then the technology that you made, that they gave you to make, is used to help kill his daughter. That. And then that's why the height of folly is such a good name for this chapter, because at the end of it, Kuma tried to make a decision to help save his daughter, and then at this point in time, right, it's that decision you made put your daughter through so much more stress. But at the end of the day, I think the true thought process to have here is that you can't know what decisions you'll make when you make at a point, how that'll affect your future. So Kuma made those decisions he made because he wanted to protect Bonnie to the utmost ability that he could, and hopefully that's what comes out in the end, and that's just whatever comes out in the end will be his burden to bear. But he had his heart in the right place, and I think that, sure, at this point it looks like the height of folly, but anything can happen. I'm gonna finish up this chapter. Basically, Luffy, we see Luffy, he's back at that machine, he's eating. It doesn't really show how he escaped, if he ran or where he got the food from in the first place, or what exactly happened, but he basically eats more food, and so that Luffy's going to be coming back soon. And so with Brook and Lilith looking like they're about to fall off, and Luffy looking like he's about to go into Gear 5, I really do think that it's possible that the ancient golem, the ancient giant, basically wakes up and activates, and then that makes me think too that if the ancient giant activates for when Gear 5 activates, that means that 200 years ago there had to have been a Gear 5 activation, right? Anyway, that's just something that popped into my head just now, so felt like I had to get it out. But then the chapter like ends with this thing where it's like, oh, that ship that Saturn was talking about, how we sent it out to go and destroy the people who left Egghead, who, at the beginning of this arc, Vegapunk sent out a lot of the people who lived on the island because he didn't want them to die. He's like, hey, yo, you guys are innocent. I was doing my thing. You guys had to go live, right? And then so he sends out those people to leave, and then the Marines are sent after them to go and shoot down their ship, because anyone who's on this island could have learned something from Vegapunk, and he doesn't want any information to slip out. But that ship has been destroyed by somebody. Now, the first obvious people it could have been destroyed by was Blackbeard, because we know Blackbeard is in the area. So that's just honestly a high potential that he destroyed it, and now Blackbeard is, making his move at this point. He maybe destroyed that ship, took somebody a hostage, and said, what's going on the island? And now Blackbeard is, up to date. Second option, I think this is technically a more likely option, or it could just be the second most likely option, but it's the Revolutionary Armies. I feel like they're a faction that was brought up early in this arc. Shaka called Dragon. He let Dragon know that, they're coming after our head, and they had a flashback where they go into detail about, the Ohara incident and how this affected them. This is the second coming of Ohara. So this could just be the situation that, Dragon says, I let that happen the first time, I will not let that happen again, and Dragon comes in and does something about it. We all been waiting for Dragon to do something, so I feel like this arc in particular would be a very good arc for Dragon to, make that decision. So let me know what you guys thought about this chapter. I thought, although it was a little slow, a little short, we are still waiting for something substantial to happen. I want to see Zoro do something cool. I want to see what the Revolutionary Army is doing. I want to see what Blackbeard's doing. I want to see what the Cross Guild is doing, and I want to see Luffy get up. So we're all kind of just waiting and waiting and waiting for these things to happen, and until those things happen, I feel like the chapters aren't going to be hitting as hard, because all the characters that we want to see are either not appearing or on their back. So we've gotten what we wanted out of Kuma. Kuma has showed us what he got. Now let's see the rest of it. Anyway, this has been Soge Kami, and this has been Chapter 1105, Summary and Analysis. Take care. See you next week.